In today's video, we are going to discuss the critical positions from round 3 of Tata Steel Chess Tournament, which is going on. And we have a position in front of us. And here, black has made the move king to f5. I'm going to flip the board. No, sorry, it is white to move actually. And I want you people to first assess the position. If you look at the position, the pawn, white has one extra pawn, but that extra pawn is double pawn. White has three pawn islands, and white has a bishop instead of black's two rooks. This rook is being challenged by this rook and queen. And if I will tell you people that the position is equal, then it is really something that the position is equal. And it is white to move. And I want you people to pause and think that what is the best move for white? It is a complicated position. It is not an easy one. This game was played between Daniel Dubov and Santosh Vidit Gujarati. Daniel was white, and it is Daniel's turn to play. And I want you people to pause and think that how white can whether make a progress in this position or whether he can force a draw. Because black is up in material, his rooks are active, his both of the rooks, his queen is active. White's rook is threatened. This bishop is out of the game. This bishop is threatened by this rook, but it can't move. White's rook is being threatened by this king. So it is not an easy position. You have to give a thought to it. What is hanging of white? White's rook is hanging. White's bishop is hanging. What is black's hanging? Black's this pawn on h6 is hanging, and nothing more is hanging. So it is black who is better because his just one pawn is hanging, but white's rook and bishop both are hanging. So what idea you got? There is only one move actually in this position. I can't give you the options in this position. There is only one move, and you have to think that whether with that move you can win or you can draw. Just think. It is not easy to calculate. I understand that. Just think of your options. First, you can't. Whether you can take this rook, is it possible? Because after rook take, queen take, you will have to exchange the queens. And here, black would be winning. Because of white's these three pawn islands. And white would have just only bishop. So the option of taking the rook is out of the question. Can you play this bishop anywhere to protect? I see just only one square. Is it possible that you can play it? But if you play it, it would be a blunder. Why is that? Because you will lose your bishop. If you play the bishop over here, rook into rook, bishop into rook, and then queen into bishop. And black will be queen and rook up. So it would be better for white to resign. So what other option white has? The other option white has to give forced checks to black, which is the place that from where we can give the check. And I see just only the square over here. Sorry. And after the check, you have to calculate what happens if black takes this rook. It is not an easy to calculate thing because you gives the check black king. Black king then can capture the rook. Do you have something further? You have left with no moves. You have to calculate deep. Are you left with something further? So, for example, we calculate deep. We give the check, king into rook. We can give the second check of queen, and that would be over here on g4, where this king can move. The black king can only move to over here. Now you see the mating threat because now the queen can give the check over here on c4, and the king would be forced to move over here on d6, and it would be a mate. Queen comes over here to c3 with checkmate. So the best move in this position is queen c8 check, and black can't take this rook because he would be mated. You have calculated. He has to go back king g6. Now you see the pattern that you can give the force checks because this queen can't come over here. After queen takes, king takes, this rook is hanging. So the king again has to move king f6, initial check, king f5, and you repeat the move, king c8 check, and it is a draw. But here actually Daniel Dobo blundered and he played the move f3. Now you see that why this is a blunder. Because now after rook into e4, f into e4 check, king into e4. Now white just has this check, and this king is further coming forward, and he would be out of the checks. So in the game he played the move queen e8 check, but now king e3. Does this check matters? No. This king can come over here, and soon white would be out. White would be out of the checks. I'm going to show you that what happens if queen check. Now king d2, queen. The problem is that there is no other further check. He can't give the check over here because this queen can take it. So he played the move bishop c6, taking control of this diagonal and hoping come from over here. But now queen e5 check. It is black's turn to give the check. g3, now g4. Now this king has no escape routes. This rook is going to come to give the check. This queen is sorry. I'm really sorry. Uh, so you are at position. I'm really very sorry for the interruption. There is a problem with my mouse actually. Rook into e4, pawn into e4, king into e4, queen check, king e3, bishop c6, queen e5 check, g3, and now g4. The point of this g4 is that this queen is coming over here to give the check and for the mate. Queen a7 check, and now king d2, and white had no more checks and he designed the game. So we come to our next decisive game. This game was played between Jordan Van Forest versus Pragananda of India. And black played the move king e8, white gave the check. White played the move rook into e4. Now, first you assess the position. The problem is that black has too much double pawns. Black has four pawn islands, whereas white's pawn structure is very good. White's queen is active, controlling this square, and the position is equal because black rook is holding everything. His pawn is controlling this rook, and white's this rook is basically misplaced. And it is black's to move actually. And I want you people to pause the video and think because it is an easy one. The position is equal. Just you have to keep the tempo alive. The equality in the position alive. And the best move in this position was actually queen f8. Because if now white tries the move queen f3, now simple queen h6. Queen f2 by white, now queen h5 threatening mate. Rook e1 coming back. King g8 into pawn on c5. Now white can play the move forced f3. Queen has to come back. Now f into g2 check, queen into g2 check, king f7. And there is no way that white can make a progress because the placement of this queen and rook is very dangerous. White can't just abandon this 8 time. There is but again, Agananda played the move f3 immediately. And that was a mistake because after g into f3, queen f8, threatening the pawn. Now, queen g3. He missed that his pawn is hanging on e4 with the check, and black can't take this pawn to c5. After queen into d5 check, queen has to come over here. And after queen into f6 check, rook into queen. Now h4. Black tries to come over here for these pawns, but now white can hold everything. And these two pawns are not just corner. So in the same game, we come to this position. White has just played the move queen h4, challenging the queen on f6. And I want you people to pause the video and think that is it better for you to exchange the queens in this position? Pause and think. If you can't exchange it, where are you going to place your queen? Or do you see anything of white hanging that at least you can capture that? At least make white's win difficult. Although white is now roundabout has a winning advantage. But how you can make his life difficult? In the game, Pragnanda took the queen, and that was a mistake. So, what was the best move? The best move was that this pawn is hanging. At least grab it. Rook into f3, queen into f6. Rook takes the queen. Now, rook c4 going after this pawn. These two pawns are just a goner. Rook into c5. Now e4. After d into e4, now rook f4. White is going to take this rook. For example, he takes it. Now rook into e4. And it is not an easy win at all, an easy win for white on the board. So around 3. We come to our third game, and here we have a position knight. White has just played the move knight to a3. And what do you think that it is the best move for black in this position? It is just the opening phase, the 13th move. What is the best move for black in this position? The best move actually for black in this position was to take the pawn. But you have to calculate. It is the best move. But you should must know that what is the drawbacks or what is the positive aspects of this move. Just think a little bit deeper. At least 3 moves. That why this move is better. Instead of the move which was played in the game, and that was queen to c8. The point is that if you have calculated after into d4, knight into d4, now e5, challenge the pawn. Knight c6, b into c6, e5 by white, and now knight e4. Takes, pawn takes, knight c4, challenging the bishop, now bishop a6. And in this way, the black pieces are active than white. Sorry, equally active like white. But the decisive mistake came over here. White has just played the move. I'm going to go 2 moves back. Now black's queen was challenged, so he took the queen. Rook into e3. And now I want you people to pause the video and think that what Sergei Kraken missed in this position. And he actually blundered. The problem is that he just blundered. He played the move rook e to b8. Do you see the problem that why rook e b8 move is wrong? It is a very easy one. This example is. The simple problem is that rook e b8, this bishop was hanging. After knight into d7, knight into d7, and rook into knight, white is just a full piece up. And Andrei Espenko won the game afterwards. So, our fourth example is from the game between Niels Grandulius versus Richard Trapport. Richard Trapport was playing black, and the critical position I am going to show you, which arose over here. Black has just played the move rook to c7. It is white's turn. And how you continue? If you see that black is already a pawn up, white has got nothing from the opening because black's bishop is controlling this whole dark squares. This queen is on near the king, protecting. This rook is controlling this half open file. So that's why white got nothing of the opening. It is just a middle game. And I want you people to create a plan that how white can continue in this position. What are the black's threat? When he played the move rook c7, his simple concept is that he wants to double the rooks over here on c8 and challenge this pawn twice. How you can counter the threat of doubling of rooks of black and stopping this assault of your pawn on c2? What is the best way to stop this assault? Here, actually, Niels Grandoles got aggressive and he just played the move f5, and that was a mistake because this was not the right time to play it. Then, what was the right time to play it? How you can. This knight is controlling at present this pawn, but you want your rooks to be active also. How you can make these rooks active and still protect this pawn? Think, just think that how you can make your rooks active, both of these rooks active, and still protect this pawn. And the move was actually knight e2. The point of this knight e2 move is that when black is going to double over here, you simply play the move c3. Now this pawn is protected, and now white is threatening this pawn over here. And this was the best way to play. But again, by f5. Now rook h8, still going for the doubling of the rooks. Rook g3, going after the pawn on g7. Another mistake. Now bishop to e3, h4 by white. Now queen b4. And in the long run, actually, after over here h5, black played a move, and that was a mistake. And he played the move rook c3. Why this is a mistake? What is the best move in this position for black? I'm going to flip the board for you people. What is the best move in this position for black? Please keep in mind that your this pawn is hanging. If you make any dubious move, white has a counterplay on this queen side. So you can't make a dubious move. So what is the best move in this position? Not easy to find. It is time to find a new target actually. This threat is not going anywhere. You have to find a new target. This coin is well placed. You can't move this bishop. You can't move this rook. In fact, But you can move this rook. The problem is that black played the move rook c3. That was a blunder. Sorry. I want you people to pause the video and just think that what is the best place? How to find a new target with this rook? And the move was actually rook to c4. Because if white goes for taking this pawn, it would be a blunder because black can just play the move queen c3. Takes this pawn. It also makes easy for white because after f into e6, what are you going to do? You see that white is out of the options over here. He can just play the move queen to g2 and now rook d5, and that is the whole concept, playing the move rook c4 to d5, and now you have found this new target. And this was all about this game. This move, and it was not an easy one. This was a total positional maneuvering. So if you like my today's video, kindly subscribe and hit the bell icon button. Thank you very much.